Hey, hi there. It's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. We all know what that means. Another episode of Behind Breaking Bond. Joining me is a man who may or may not have been my parole officer in the mid to late 80s.
What?
I'm so sorry. It just came across, and I had to print it out because you're not going to believe this.
What?
Come over here.
Okay, this is.
She's scaring me.
No, you're not going to believe this. Our board of directors,
This to me or
to you,
What I do.
I don't know.
It was all his idea.
it's all this. No, you are being awarded the 2022 Johnny Glevenhagen Award
Wow.
at this year's luncheon.
Thank you
Nice.
so much. Wow.
Did I scare you? So it's presented to any person working in the criminal justice system who has made a significant contribution to fighting crime.
Wow.
And so you in your Breaking Bond segments garnered you this prestigious award.
Thank you so much.
You are
Wow,
welcome.
that's
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who
I'm
nominated?
blushing. I know it wasn't you.
Wait a second, I thought,
It does not say that. That's protected, anonymity. You know, nominators are anonymous, just like tipsters. So,
I
yeah.
believe you'll also be getting an award on
Congratulations.
Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what I hear. Thank you very much.
We'll see.
that's what happened after this.
Right, yeah.
Congratulations, both of you guys. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, Raymond Ramirez, the
You
big
heard
Ramirez.
it here first. You heard it here first. You were, this was like breaking news.
It was.
This was like, as you know, Nancy Grace would say, bombshell. This was happening right here live.
Did we have one of those like breaking news graphic things?
I know, I should have thrown one in there.
It'll probably be only on Fox too, just my guess.
Yeah.
But this
I think we can assume that.
so where were we? Oh, I was going to say who I was.
Yes, introduce yourself,
Andy
man.
Kahn, Director of Victim Services, and just today's episode
Oh,
is sponsored
please.
by No Bond Coffee. This is my family's coffee business, and we came up with No Bond, and it says right here, bail rejected, coffee accepted. And if you guys want some, I will make you a personal No Bond coffee. It's really, really good. And if I looked like Sam Elliott and had a hat, I would say good to the last drop. So that's our product for today.
We're, one of the things that we've been seeing, this is Police Union President Doug Griffith, one of the things we've been seeing, especially recently, last week, as a matter of fact, a wanted fugitive shooting at 3 police officers.
Yes, sir. We're truly blessed that those officers got out of there with the injuries that they did, not more serious or deceased at this point. This guy's a career criminal that in reality should have been in prison, not out on the streets. And he was allegedly making selector switches for Glocks to make them fully automatic. And when he attacked our officers, he did use a fully automatic handgun to go at them. And later, when he decided to try to attack our SWAT guys, he was also using a fully automatic weapon. So we know the streets are dangerous. Our officers are doing what they can with what they have. But again, it comes back down to the courts and them holding these guys accountable and locking them up. We're going to continue to see more deaths in Harris County. We're going to see more officers injured, all because of the bail policies of the Harris County court system.
We are now sadly up to 160 Harris County residents who have died allegedly at the hands of a defendant out of jail on multiple bonds.
That's 100, and that also includes 3 law enforcement officers,
Right.
2 that were actually on active duty at the time. And so, you know, obviously what Doug said last week was just absolutely horrific, and especially for law enforcement. You had a corporal or precinct 5 that, you know, paid the ultimate price from a guy that was on the lam for 25 years. And like you said, Doug, we were lucky because his intent was to kill these 3 officers out there today. So when you look at the homicide numbers so far for January 22, and you look at them, and HPD is reporting 47 known deaths. That doubles, it's actually over double than what New York City has or what Los Angeles has. So
And we're ahead of Chicago, I believe.
we were
too.
number one in the country. It was on national news. I mean, this is not something you want to have on your Welcome to Texas, Welcome to Houston Chamber of Commerce brochure, but it's reality. And the quicker we get a grasp on what's happening, you have some really evil people out there. And you have a lot of people out there that, quite frankly, shouldn't be out there because they should have been locked up to begin with in the first place. So the revolving door at the courthouse, compiled with the ramifications of discretionary felony bond reform, will continue to reverberate and wreak havoc amongst the people of Harris County for decades, if not for eternity.
And I think we've made it very clear that, yeah, everyone deserves a bond. The Texas Constitution gives every defendant except capital murder.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, except for that
A
one.
bond, and everybody should be entitled to that, but not 3, 4, 5, 6. What that's saying is, yeah, I'm out on bond, but I'm going to continue to rack up criminal charges. I mean, it's like we see people doing it's like their own crime spree, isn't it?
You know, like I said, we did a story, you and I did, and Doug, you might have also been part of it. We had a guy on like a dozen aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon charges. And my first thought when we talked was, first of all, dude, you're not very good at it because you keep getting caught. Second of all, in order to rack up 12 charges, you have to be out here to do it. And who keeps allowing you to do the same thing time and time again just simply defies logic. And that's what we're seeing right now. And no wonder you have crime rates going up.
And if people out there want to do something about it, they do it at the polls, don't they, Joe?
That is correct. And we tell everybody, pay attention to what we're going to be putting out. As these elections approach, we're going to be putting out information of who you should vote for. And let me tell you something, there's only maybe 1 or 2 incumbents that I would even consider voting for. Outside of that, I would not do it. We'd have a whole new slate of judges if I could change it tomorrow. But again, get educated. That's the thing. People get educated in what these elected officials are wanting to do. Once you get educated that, go out and vote. It's important. It's going to mean the difference between this continued chaos and our future. Harris County deserves so much better than what it's getting right now from its leaders. And that includes the commissioner's court, that includes all of them. And I have no problem calling them out. You've got an ex-police officer on there that claims that he knows all about law enforcement, yet he's done absolutely nothing to help the courts, and he has the ability to do so. And so does Lena Hidalgo, they all do. And until they start getting serious, I find it kind of sickening, actually, that she decides to show up to this officer's funeral when she's showing up to none of the others, not a single one. Why? All of a sudden it's election season and she's got opponents. That's just disgraceful to me. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you like her or you don't like her. That's disgraceful.
And it's not, we're not telling anybody how to vote. We're just telling you, be sure to go and vote. We've talked about this before. The March primary, the most unusual thing about it is you've got district court judges that have people running against them in their own party.
I've been around a long time, and I'm sure, Doug, you'll agree. It's very rare when you have an incumbent judge actually being opposed in the same primary by someone running against you. It really just doesn't happen. Normally you get a free ride to the general election, but the fact that you have 13 felony district court judges running, 8 of them have primary opponents, and every single, I think just about all the county court of criminal judges as well. So the fact that the Democrat Party has thought fit to actually run candidates against incumbent judges speaks volumes to me.
It does. That really does. And Doug mentioned that they're going to be putting out stuff. We've already talked to 3 judicial candidates behind breaking bond, and we were going to have one today, but she had an emergency and couldn't make it. But again, we are opening this up to any judicial candidate. If you are currently a criminal district court judge, come on here and talk to us. No one's going to attack you in any way. I'll keep my big mouth shut. I mean, it's your opportunity. Did you see his face when I said that? Okay, maybe not.
In other words, we're not going to have the no bond. Maybe we'll remove that.
But
Well,
no,
but we've always said, you and I have always said, look, I just want to know what makes you do what you do.
Right.
What
Right.
makes you think this was the right decision? When you had the case that was 2 weeks ago involving the police chasing the guy that was wanted for 2 aggravated robberies, and it ended up in a horrific crash that cost the mother of the 2 her life. And the fact that this guy was on multiple bonds, the fact that his bond was revoked, the fact that after you reinstated his bond, normally when you reinstate bonds, you
go up, right.
You went from 80 to 40 to 10. And then on the other one, you went from 40 to 5. How do you justify reducing someone's bond who you just revoked? And I'm sorry, and like this, we're just going to call it, that decision cost that mother to her life. And there's no way to sugarcoat that.
And if I was on the other end of this, if I was a criminal district court judge, I would want someone to give me the opportunity to kind of explain the mindset. We understand you cannot sit here and discuss pending cases in your court. That's just not allowed. And we wouldn't ask you to do that. But we all kind of hear about this sort of idea of let's redo the criminal justice system. If that's what this is part of, explain that to everyone out there. People want to know that. People are really worried about crime in this city right now.
And Doug, as the president of the police, I mean, what are your officers seeing? What are they telling you out there? It's got to be so frustrating.
It's extremely frustrating for them to go when they know they have a case, they read the MO on it, and they go, it's the same guy we put in jail. They go back out there and they get them again. They go to jail, they get right back out. It's frustrating to see the same people time and time again. And then when they're not held accountable for their actions, it just emboldens them to go out there and do more. And so they know, hey, look, I'll just get another bond. Well, I care. I'm going to go continue to do what I do, which is they can be robbery suspects, burglar, whatever it is. They're the criminal of the day. They all know they're going to get out. And so that's a problem. And if you look at our prison system, we have a 20% reduction over the last 2 years in inmates. Why is that? Because courts will refuse to open. And we've already proven it can be done safely. Let's get those guys where they need to be, in prison. Instead of, oh, it's overcrowded to jail, we have to let so many out, we're going to give them all bonds. That is a problem.
The one thing that I really see coming up, and you're starting to see this, a little bit right now, but I think you're going to see more and more of it. As more and more of these cases eventually go to trial, you've got guys that have been out on bond 3, 4, and sometimes 5 years. And we saw what happened a couple months ago. Now, seriously, if you're on a capital murder bond, which we have over 100,
Right.
and you're looking more than likely at a life or a life without parole sentence if you're out on bond, are you seriously going to walk into that trial and go, oh, this is, you might for the first day and say, this doesn't really look too good, I'm out of here. So you're going to probably have more and more cases like what we just saw.
Where people are going to run.
Where people that are on the run, which puts you guys in major jeopardy.
Even like you look at someone, okay, look how many times we've profiled defendants that have 6, 7, 8 aggravated robbery charges. I mean, that could be a little, from a defendant standpoint, that could be somewhat overwhelming, right? I mean, if I show up and go to court, I'll never see the light of day. I mean, I can understand why some of these people that have multiple bonds feel like, I'm not going to go back anymore.
Look at the guy that killed Jeffrey.
Yes.
I mean, that's a prime example of what we have to deal with. And we're going to see more and more of that. It's going to get to the point where our SWAT team has to go make all these arrests because the average patrol officer is not going to do that.
No.
Do you have like any idea how many wanted fugitives are out there? I mean, is there?
I've been told over 25,000.
Okay, so I had no idea. When I was asked, I said, you probably got an entire town.
Yeah.
Oh, guaranteed.
25,000, that's an entire town.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's on the low side, if I'm guessing.
And we've tried repeatedly, you've tried repeatedly to get the specific numbers. And the thing that just is mind-boggling to me, why isn't someone out there wanting this? Why doesn't Commissioner's Court, or why doesn't the county judge or JAB, why don't they want these things, right?
The fact that we're not proactive, we're reactive, we wait until something, bad happens. says it all. I've offered to them Blue in the Moon at Crime Stoppers. Let's profile, bond
Right.
fugitives. Let's do it. Let's get it out there and maybe we can catch people, beforehand. But everything's come like in full cycle. You remember back in 1990, Officer Jim Irby,
Yeah,
and he pulled over a guy, and it was Carl Wayne Bunchen. Bunchen was on parole, and he left the halfway house for a month. No one, and again, Bunchen thought he was a wanted fugitive.
Right.
He didn't know he wasn't wanted, but Bunchen thought, and that's why he gunned down Jim Irby. So you're having 30 years later, we're right back in that same kind of mode. The only difference is instead of a prison overcrowding, you've got a revolving door at the courthouse.
and it's not good for the defendants either. I mean, nobody is really winning in this, right? Because we've seen so many young men that they keep picking up, they're out and they're picking up more criminal charges. We're not doing them a favor either. It's not like they're turning their life around. They're just, the hole's getting deeper for them and they get desperate.
And let me tell you what's about to happen, because we've got all these outstanding cases. So if you have someone that's got 4 or 5 bonds, what's going to happen is they're going to call them in. They're going to say, hey, look, we'll cut you a break. We'll find you guilty on this one. You plead guilty, take 4 years. We'll dismiss the others. And so it's not going to matter how many they had out there to begin with or at the end of the day, because they're just going to plead to one and the rest will be dropped. We've seen it time and time again here in Harris County. And I promise you, as soon as they open the courts up, that's going to be the fastest way to get rid of their backlog.
Well,
Son, you had the police chase.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the guy's background. He was on 4 deferred adjudication charges, including aggravated robbery of an elderly, which he shoved an elderly person down and then stole a person and used her credit card. You're on 4 deferreds.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Exactly. Don't understand how that happens.
you know what you were talking about, the court thing you all had on last Thursday, the State Senator John Whitmire made an excellent point that because you've got this backlog, you've got defendants and their attorneys, they're not taking a plea agreement now because they figure once, to get rid of the backlog, I'll wait a year and I'll get even a better plea deal.
Right. And they'll catch another case before.
Right.
They don't care. They know they can get as many cases they want to. They're going to plead out at the end of the day. They'll get a couple of years. They'll be back out. Half of them will get time served already for Harris County jail time, and they're not worried about it. There's no fear. There's no holding people accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
Our Facebook viewer, Linda, says, this is very disturbing to me as a mom of a brave officer. He puts his life to catch a criminal, and they get out on bond and then kill somebody that doesn't deserve it. Please vote.
Exactly, yes. Linda. Thank you very much. That's our whole point is vote in the March primary, March the 1st. And in the November election, every single criminal district court judge has an opponent, correct?
This upcoming election cycle, there's only one issue in Harris County, that's crime. 1, 2. And I think for the first time in history, you're going to have a focus on the judiciary that it's never had.
Yes.
Or most people had no clue who they, that name looks good.
Right.
Do that.
Or it would be
straight ticket.
Straight
ticket vote is always what kills.
Yeah, right.
Because they look at the main people up there and then they would go Republican, Democrat, whoever. Doesn't
right.
matter. That's who I vote for. We have to get away from that mindset and we have to really research these people, because at the end of the day, public safety is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It is a public safety issue. You have to look at who's going to do the best in that position, no matter what they are or be. Because I've got people on both sides to do a great job.
Right.
Go for the person that's going to hold the values that we set in the community. They have one job, and that's to keep us all safe.
Right.
We have to vote for the person that's going to do that the best.
Why do you think there's so much pushback, especially from Commissioner's Court, on law enforcement and this type of mindset, as I call it, these are collateral damage of this great social experiment that we keep. Why do you think that?
I think to stay in the position they're in, which is an all-powerful position here in Harris County, they have to do what the party says. They're going to follow that mindset. And if you look, it just trickles down. It really does. Look at their smart crime initiative. None of it went to any of the officers out there. It went to beautify parks and land spaces and all this other garbage, which, don't get me wrong, we need that.
Sure.
But when you've got increasingly violent offenders out on the streets, you better find some way to curtail that, or nobody's gonna be walking on those trails. They're gonna be too scared. They're gonna get jacked or get shot.
Good point.
One of the things that when Judge Hidalgo came out with her, hotspot crime prevention plan, and I noticed in her press conference that she stated, we're going to be going after repeat violent offenders. And I said to myself, why doesn't someone ask her, shouldn't that be the real issue? Why are these repeat violent offenders out
And
there
the
to
first
begin
place,
with?
yeah.
And second of all, if you do arrest the repeat violent, what assurances are you going to give the public that they won't go right back out again?
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like, at this point, I think what I would like to see happen is acknowledgement of it. Yes, it is happening, and then fix it. But I've just felt like we've kind of been ignored through the whole thing, right? It's sort
You
of
have.
like, I have, yeah, it's kind of like, he'll go away.
I've been called
Ignore him,
names, and
ignore
I'm
him.
sure Doug's been called names.
Oh, yeah.
but-
Don't care. Don't care.
I don't
I've been
either.
called worse by better.
But there you go. If you can think of something I've never been called, good for you, right?
Exactly.
But no, seriously, it's so important as a community to vote. And again, don't look at it from a party standpoint. Like Doug was saying, look at the track record of some of these judges. How did they fit in public safety when they made these decisions? I just don't know how in your right mind you can actually think, after you see the same person in front of you 4 or 5 times, that, okay, yeah, no, they're not going to do it anymore. They're not, that's just naive, right? How can you even look at a situation and think that way?
On Facebook, Roseanne, bottom line is no bonds will keep them locked up.
Well, we did try to do that in this legislative session.
Yeah.
We tried to get a constitutional amendment passed that would have given judges discretion not to grant bond to certain defendants charged with certain violent crimes. So for example, when Paul Castro's son David was leaving the Astrodome, the guy eventually charged with murder got a bond. The one that shot Diamond Alvarez 22 times
Right.
got a bond. By statute, the judges had no choice. Granted, we could argue back and forth, yeah, you could have set it at $1 million, and we've actually seen that recently, maybe because there's an election coming up as well. But until we change the code to give judges discretion, anybody with the exception of capital murder, and that's not even happening these days,
Right.
is entitled to a bond.
But this is the thing too, keep in mind, we've been doing this a long time. This was not an issue up until just the last few years. So, I mean, we had the Constitution, judges were looking at the same Constitution, right? But you had judges that, hey, you violated your bond conditions, you're gonna go to jail, right?
Would you agree, Doug, like I said, Randy and I said, gee, did we ever do a story on a guy out on capital murder bond? And we're like, no. You obviously have seen the changes and stuff that you never saw before that's happening now, that's eye scratching.
The fact that they would let anybody on a capital murder bond just blows me away. I mean, that is someone that's either killed multiple people, killed someone in commission of a felony, or they killed a police officer. At that point, they've proven, without a doubt, they're not going to be a productive member of society. They have broken the laws of our Constitution to the point that we don't trust them to be out there, yet certain judges say, I disagree, we're gonna go ahead and lower the bond and let them out.
I mean,
That is a problem. That is a real problem.
you of all people, I'm sure would agree that there are people that they may end up in the criminal element due to drugs. And some of those people, you can treat those people. There are people that have mental issues. But then aren't there people out there that they're in the criminal element because they choose that and they're not going to leave it, right?
Well, there's some people out there, let's just put it like it is. There's some people out there just evil.
Yeah.
It is. And those people need to be away from the general population. Because if not, they are going to continue to victimize other people. And that's how some of them just get off to that. They like to be abusive. They like to beat people up. They like to shoot people. They want to be the bully on the block. Those kind of people, there's a place for them. It's called jail.
Right.
They need to stay
That's
there.
why we have prisons.
That is exactly.
In a perfect world, you would never have to have a prison because nobody would be breaking the law to the point where they needed to be away from society. Well, we don't live in a perfect world.
So you have over 110 people in Harris County now out on capital murder bond. And right now, there's at least 4 of them that have been charged with additional murders.
Mhm.
And one of them we're gonna talk about tonight.
That's right. That's going to be the subject of tonight's Breaking Bond at 9. Be sure to tune in. Thank you so much for watching.
And one last, if you do want your own no bond coffee, just let me know. And it's, like I said, it's the real deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.